Welcome everyone. This regular Oak Park City Council meeting of August 17th, 2020 is called to order. City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor McClellan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Radner.
Here.
Councilmember Weiss.
Here.
And Councilmember Edgar.
Here.
Everyone's here. We have quorum. Before we approve the agenda, I understand that Judge Apple is going to do a short presentation under number 6, special recognition and presentations. So if you will add that, there are motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. It's Weiss and Radner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a consent agenda. These are things that are presented without discussion as a single item. Any council member can ask to have something removed if they would like to discuss it. Regular council meeting minutes of August 3rd, 2020. Special council meeting minutes of the same date. Request to approve change order number 1 for the amount of $32,909.54 in our favor because of long time taken to get the bridge project done. And payment application number 2 for the amount of $98,070.97 to Z Contractors of Shelby Township, Michigan for the 2019 Bridge Enhancement Project M670. D, request to declare the listed vehicles surplus and sold by sealed bid, public auction, or disposal at the lowest expense to the city in accordance with city policy. And the item on this is a John Deere wheel loader that was originally purchased in 1999. D, request to declare the listed vehicle surplus and sold by sealed bid. E, Parks and Recreation Commission meeting minutes of June 17th, 2020. And finally, licenses, new and renewals submitted for August 17th, 2020. Their motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. That's Burns. Is there a second?
Second.
Weiss. If you please do a roll call because of the $98,000 bill.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
And Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Do we have any elected officials here to report today? Hearing none. Item 6 is special recognition and presentations. And Judge Michelle Apple asked me if she could mention some important things that have happened with the court that we all need to know about. So Judge Apple, thank you for your time and thanks for being here.
Thank you for adding me on at the last minute. It's great to see all of you. Congratulations to Councilmember Weiss on her primary victory. I suspect condolences to the rest of you that you're going to lose her, but it was a great victory. So I thought there was day-to-day stuff going on that may not be known to all of you, and then there was a specific project that has come up or a program that has come up. In terms of day-to-day, I thought it was important that you knew that even though nobody's coming to our building, we are in full operation virtually. I have full dockets every day and they are all being done by Zoom. That being said, we thought it was important for you and the citizens to know that you can interact with the court by just calling our regular number 248-691-7442. Even though we don't have a full staff, we have created a situation where we're socially distanced in different parts of the building. A real person answers the phone, and there is a way to conduct court business, whether you need to schedule a court hearing, whether you want a hearing on a ticket, whether you have a matter pending and you don't understand how to take care of it, or if something, even though we stopped issuing bench warrants once the pandemic started back in March, we stopped. So people who weren't appearing on previously set court dates, we did not bench warrant them, but there are older bench warrants that are still out there. And just this week, we've started doing virtual walk-in arraignments. So by video, all being done by Zoom. And so anyone calling the court can access the court and its services. That being said, a specific program has,
Excuse me, wasn't there an email address that you mentioned?
right, but it depends what you're doing. And when you talk to the clerk, they will give them the correct email address because we have different mailboxes depending on what they're doing. So yes, in fact, letters can be emailed to the court, but depending if it's a ticket or if it's an arraignment, they have created different email accounts at the 45th District Court. That being said, last month, the Michigan legislature, through federal funding, created an eviction diversion program. And this program is created to make sure nobody is evicted during this crisis. The state of Michigan, and specifically the county of Oakland, got money for rent and for legal services. And starting next week, we have what's called an eviction diversion program. I provided the mayor with the flyer that if someone is about to be evicted or notified that they were evicted or have been served with a lawsuit, I can no longer evict them until I refer them for free legal services. In Oakland County Lakeshore Legal Aid has been funded to the tune of about $5 million for legal services. We have a specific attorney dedicated to our courthouse who will represent these people. And once eligibility is determined, up to 90% of past due rent will be funded by this program, and the monies will be paid directly to the landlords. It's a simple program. It's a one-page document. The criteria is pretty simple in terms of eligibility, and we have already found the landlords are participating because they're getting paid directly and the tenants aren't being evicted. So in order to participate and determine eligibility, there is a number dedicated to Oakland County. I also have provided that flyer to the mayor, but the number is 248-8715. So 866-248-8715. You call that number and there will be two prompts, whether you have been sued or you think you're going to be sued. If you have been sued, you will in fact connect to legal aid. If you haven't been sued, you'll be connected to Community Housing Network. If by chance you connect to the wrong one, they are able to redirect you to the correct agency. I will give you this caveat. There are a lot of people in this situation and there are wait times, and they can be 45 minutes or you may be messaged and told they will call you back. Our experience has been everybody gets a phone call back. Our experience has been these cases are dismissed, so people don't have judgments on their credit reports. And we are encouraging the people who call the court, and when we're mailing out notices to the court, we are including this flyer in all of our pleadings. So that being said, the more people who know about it, the sooner they'll get in the system and the faster the money will be made available. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions on this program?
I'm
I have
sorry.
a question, if possible.
I'm sorry.
I think it's a wonderful program, and thank you very much for sharing that information. I know there's a lot of people that could have used that assistance. I'm just curious, are you aware of a similar program in regards to garnishments. I've been told there have, a couple of residents has approached me in regards to they've been garnished during this COVID period. And I would think that that kind of thing would be held off at this time to garnish someone wages during this COVID pandemic. Are you aware of any programs that are available for persons that are in that situation?
Well, first of all, we stayed all of that in the 45th. So we have not allowed execution. We haven't served any garnishment. So it depends what court. If it's in my court, you can call and set a hearing. Once you file an objection, it will stay, and they'll set a Zoom hearing, but they will have a hearing. We'll give them, set a hearing for an objection. There's not a specific program. If it was a new garnishment, there was a stay on service, so they couldn't have been served with anything, but that has been lifted. They are allowed to serve process as of about a month ago, but there's no specific governor stay on it.
Okay, because I believe they were garnished about a month or so ago for something that happened, credit report issues or for whatever, maybe it occurred maybe 5 or 6 years ago. They were garnished once and then they were just garnished again about a month or so ago. So that is allowable?
They could, if you have more specific information and you
Okay.
call me, I can walk through it with you and perhaps
Okay.
give you some more information.
Okay.
It's not enough for me to tell you exactly, it depends. I know that's a bad answer, but
Okay.
Your Honor, can I add something as well to that? I think that there might be a point of clarification that should be made there, which is that garnishments really happen in 2 steps. First, you serve it on the bank or the employer, whoever it is, and the funds are immediately frozen. They're not dispersed until you go to court, and then you have a hearing on either the objections, or if there's no objections, then they're released after a certain amount of time. But it sounds like even if the court, even if the court does hold them in abeyance, the money will still be frozen. If, for example, an account was frozen or garnished, rather. Do I have that correct? Because I haven't really dealt much with garnishments
Yeah, but
during the
that's,
pandemic.
what you've said in general is correct, but is it a bank garnishment? Is it state tax garnishment? Is it?
I don't know. That's why I was just kind of,
I'm saying
throwing it out there.
His general answer is correct, but how it applies in this specific situation, whether it's a periodic, whether it's a non-periodic, it changes what they can and cannot do. So that's why I'm happy to look at it.
Okay, I'll have them contact you.
That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
I have a quick question related to that. If there were issues prior to COVID, like if someone was behind in their rent prior to COVID, does this still apply to that?
It might not apply to the whole balance, but
Oh.
there are other programs that predate COVID. It has to do with earning levels and what the earning levels were. And that's why it's so important to get to the community housing, because they can determine eligibility. So
Okay.
it depends on, but it's not necessarily only COVID.
But basically, anyone who's worried about if they're behind on their rent, or they're worried that they may even if they haven't been noticed or anything like that, they should call that number and reach out to get some more information.
They're the perfect person because there are landlords that already know about this, and they can come up with a settlement prior to anything being filed. There doesn't have to be pending litigation.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else?
I have a quick question. Judge, is this time limited?
The funding this particular stream of funding goes through December, but this community housing network is what's called a HARA agency. Every county has a HARA agency, similar to like every county has a MISHDA agency. It just so happened that HARA was designated to receive these funds. So it was really, I mean, not to get down into the weeds, I've been sitting in on their meetings for the last month and a half so that we could create this partnership between the Oakland County Courts and the housing network. There must be 8 other agencies involved, some of which I've never heard. And that's what is so remarkable about this community housing network. So once this particular funding stream ends, it doesn't mean there aren't other resources available and that they will stop providing services. That's not what it's about. It may come from a different, but this particular fund runs through December.
What does HARA stand for? Do you know?
Housing, I had never heard about it before. I apologize.
Okay.
I've had so many alphabet soups, but the Community Housing Network is the Oakland County HARA agency.
And you said it was 5 million. The amount
Just for
that's
attorney fees, just attorney fees.
just okay.
Excuse me. It's more, I'm sorry, I don't have the full, I don't have all my notes at home. On my desk, I could tell you the full amount of the funding, but that 5 million is just for Lakeshore, for attorney fees.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Judge Apple, you're doing amazing things. We are lucky to have a wonderful caring court hosting in our city. So thank you for coming, and thank you for presenting.
Thank you. And if you feel it's appropriate, putting this flyer on the city website, I think would be helpful. So it's there generally for the citizens.
Can I have, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my mayor's message is going out, and we will have a section on that with the phone number to call.
Thank you. Everybody be safe, healthy.
Everybody be safe.
Thank you, Judge Apple. Have a pleasant evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a public hearing or communication. We're down on our agenda to item 9, special licenses. The first one is a request for special event license and waiver of fee submitted by Chantal Hanna, 10450 Albany, for the Albany Street Block Party to be held August 30 from 10 in the morning until 8. There will be a moonwalk. It's a block party for neighborhood kids. Their motion to grant this request.
So moved.
That's
Seconded.
And second by
Edgar.
Edgar. Thank you. Any discussion or questions? This is, we have generally not accepted, not required block parties to pay the $100 fee. We waive the fees. And especially during COVID, but generally anyway. Any discussion? All those, whoop, was that a discussion?
I'm so sorry, but I am just, I'm not comfortable with block parties during this COVID time. I know unless they can, I don't think you can social distance during a block party. I'm not comfortable. I'm not confident that everyone is going to wear the proper PPE equipment. I'm just not really comfortable with the block party at this time. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. Any other discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
are we requiring any resident that submits an application for something like this to meet all of the guidelines, state guidelines for gatherings, and how are we enforcing that?
Madam Mayor, you want me to take that? So the answer to your question is yes. We have an obligation, obviously, to make sure that people are following those guidelines. And in the back of the application, you'll see that it talks about regular patrols. The only way we could possibly enforce that is if we're in the area and observe people not following the guidelines, and in which case we'll have to deal with that.
I'm wondering if perhaps during COVID, something could be added recommending social distancing and mask wearing for events.
To the application itself, you mean?
Perhaps, or any way you would like to administer it.
May I be heard?
Solomon Radner.
It's
Oh,
already
really?
required by, yeah, well, it was being, the neighborhood kids are being too loud, and my kids are being too loud also, so the next quietest place is my car. I'm not driving, don't worry. Yeah, the last thing I need. State law already requires whatever it is that state law requires. It's not necessary for us to add on to that.
Okay.
The same way state law applies whether, if they're not at a block party, it applies if they are at a block party. And I think we're getting to a point where we really just, people who are concerned will behave appropriately. And we just have to assume that the majority of people are going to behave the way they should. And that includes, wearing the proper PPE and following the CDC guidelines. And of course, obviously following all state law and executive orders. I don't think it's really necessary. And if I may be so bold, I don't think it's necessarily our place either to enact or to change the application process to include COVID-19 CDC or state guidelines.
So maybe just a reminder.
A reminder, I think, is good, but I don't think I really don't think we should do more than that.
Any further discussion, or are we ready to vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Thank you. 4-1. Thank you very much. Item 9B is a request for special event license submitted by Street Corner Music Limited, 26020 Greenfield, for an outdoor phonograph record sale to be held August 29th. Paid the $100 fee, and he's limiting the number of people allowed in the tent. We need a motion to approve the request.
So moved.
Second.
Weiss and Radner. Discussion.
Do we have the times for that event?
Let's see. I
It says 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
9 to 7.
Just want to make sure I get over there. I haven't bought it in a long time.
All right. That's August 29th. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, 4-1. Thank you. Accounting reports. Need approval for payment of invoices submitted by Garen Lucal Miller, PC, for legal services in the total amount of $12,667.04. Member Radner, is there a motion to approve payment to our lawyer?
So moved. We got to pay our lawyers.
Second.
Second, Burns, thank you. A discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried. We don't have bids, but we do have 4 ordinances. And the first is a first reading of an ordinance to amend section 14.2, charge or custody of animals, and add section 14-6, humane acquisition, of chapter 14, article 1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park. Is there a motion to approve the first reading?
So moved.
Seconded.
Weiss and Radner?
No, Edgar,
Edgar.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't hear y'all. Would our city attorney please give us a summary? This one is the tether and harness. And
That's correct, Madam Mayor. 14.2 is the section that we have amended to provide for humane treatment of animals, additional regulations that provide that the tether for an animal should not be less than 10 feet. And it also restricts the outdoor, leaving an animal unattended outdoors between the hours of 12 a.m. and 7 a.m. And that has been incorporated to address council's concerns as well as the resident concerns regarding animals being left out overnight and barking.
And I think they requested a harness with the tether, and the animal has to be inside when there's a weather warning. Is that correct?
That's also correct, Madam Mayor. There is a second section incorporated into this particular resolution, which is section 14.6. This is a new section that is being added to the Oak Park Code of Ordinances that will prohibit what has been commonly referred to as puppy mills in the city of Oak Park.
Okay, are there questions or discussion for our attorney?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Weiss.
I just want to thank the city attorney's office and city staff and other council members for working really hard on this. I know we've worked on this for a long time. We looked at a lot of other ordinances from other communities. In particular, City Attorney Kraus, Director Barrett, City Manager Tungate, many others. Councilmember Edgar worked really hard on this as well. So I just want to thank everyone who put a lot of time into this. I think this will definitely clear up some confusion that has existed around some of our animal ordinances, and also help make sure that we are at the forefront of making sure that our city is safe for animals, and that residents understand what the expectations are and are able to easily follow them.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments on this particular ordinance part?
I'm glad we're doing this. I think it was a coordinated effort. It went smoothly, and I think that it's meaningful. Our animal ordinances are really kind of old, and so they needed a refresh. But I also think that we moved the city a little further ahead with this ordinance. It shows that we care about animals and we care about animal owners.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I just want to add too. I also want to thank residents too, because the residents were really instrumental in reaching out and expressing concern about some of these ordinances and wanting to make sure that they were up to date, and that they, as Councilmember Edgar said, protected animals and also helped animal owners as well. So thanks to everyone who's been involved in any way in this.
And staff and legal attorney, when I read through the red-lined version, which was very helpful because you could see any change was in red, the amount of research and work that went into this evening's selection of ordinances was very impressive. Any further questions, or are we ready for a roll call? City Clerk, Ed Norris, would you call the roll?
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. The second ordinance is 12B. First reading of an ordinance to amend section 14-5 and add section 14-7, chapter 14, article 1, domestic chickens pilot program of the Code of Ordinances, City of Oak Park. We need a motion to approve the first reading.
So moved.
That's Radner. Is there a second?
Second?
That's Weiss. Thank you. This one, domestic chickens. Let's see. So this is the pilot that we're starting with a 1-year trial where 5 permits to the first 5 people who apply will be granted for those people to raise 3 hens, and they would have to get permission of their neighbors next door and behind. Fully enclosed pens, inspection by the city at least twice. And if this pilot program is successful, it has been very successful in other cities and hasn't raised any squawking, if I may be excused for that one. And then we will extend it.
This is going to be something that in a year we look back and say, wow, this is so cool. Or, wow, what the heck were we thinking?
Exactly.
But I'm ready to see which one it is. So I like this.
All right. My friend Millicent Berry, her next door neighbor, and her two little kids are going to raise chickens, and she said, I don't know if I'm feeling okay about that. I said, well, Millicent, you don't have to sign the permit. Oh, the kids are so cute, you know. She's a sucker, so she's in. We are on discussion of this one. City Attorney Kraus, did I miss something that was in the ordinance that we should discuss?
Madam Mayor, your description was accurate. Just to clarify to council, section 14-5 is being amended to specifically remove the prohibition against farm animals. And then 14.7 is the new section that will allow for the pilot program.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question for Attorney Kraus. So is there anything in here that requires somebody to talk to neighbors about raising chickens? We discussed this, correct?
Yes,
That's
it is.
correct.
Okay, so what kind of permission do you need to get a permit?
Residents that wish to secure a permit must obtain the permission of any neighboring residents on the side or rear yards.
Okay. So just the sides and rear?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Any further questions?
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Weiss?
I know that there is a lot more that went into this as well. If we could maybe talk a little bit more about the specifics. I'm seeing some questions in the chat regarding if the chickens need clearance from a vet, and then the city inspection requirements.
Right, there are at least two inspections unless there are complaints, at which point code always goes out to investigate a complaint.
There is no requirement currently in the ordinance that the chickens be cleared by a vet. However, the conditions of the chickens themselves would be subject to the inspection requirements that are in the ordinance.
Further? We ready to vote?
One more question really quick. If obviously this is a pilot, so we're only doing 5. If residents are interested, obviously this is going to be on a first come, first served basis. So where would they go to get information in order to start the process of applying?
Good question.
It is my understanding that the Department of Technical and Planning will be handling the permits on a first come, first served basis. So there will be a maximum of 5 permits issued.
So they should, I guess the question is to City Manager Tungate, if I want chickens, do I go to Technical and Planning? Is there an application out, or what's the procedure? If I want to be one of the 5, what should I do?
Well, upon approval of the ordinance, which these ordinance changes, this is the first reading, remember. So we're going to be putting together a packet. I showed you guys a model packet from, I think it was the city of Clawson a couple meetings ago. But as of now, if people have questions, call the Department of Technical and Planning and ask for Director Barrett or Deputy Director Fairless.
Wonderful. Okay, roll call, please.
Madam Mayor, we actually need a motion and a.
Oh, we don't have a motion in a second?
I'll make the motion.
No, I think we do.
Thought we did, but Radner and Edgar? Got it?
Okay, Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
No.
It's okay, don't worry.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
and Mayor McClellan.
Yes, don't be afraid to stand your ground.
I'm not.
No, I mean, 'cause there's a group of people who agree 100% that chickens aren't for cities, and what are you thinking? So that is, you're representing, certainly a group of Oak Park residents. And
I
thank
can't
you.
wait to see Carolyn's "I told you so" face if we end up being wrong about this.
Yeah, I think I made my position clear when we had our initial first two discussions.
Yes. So we are ready now. The motion carried 4-1, and we're on to our next ordinance, which is first reading of an ordinance to amend section 1426 and section 1429 and add section 1433 and 1434, chapter 14, article 2, dangerous animals of the Code of Ordinances, City of Oak Park. I need a motion to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Solomon Radner, second.
Second.
Edgar, thank you. Let's see, dangerous
This is
animals.
a continuation of the chickens. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure. This has to do with animals running at large, that you have to keep your animal on your premises and under your control. I think it changed it to allow 180 days for foster dog in case the dog is pregnant at the time. They needed a little extension, and the fostering family is carefully checked to make sure it's not just extra dogs. This is not the doghouse one. Attorney Kraus, can you summarize this, the items that are on this one?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The foster dogs are going to be in another amendment that we're going to discuss next on the agenda. For purposes of these sections, the purpose of this amendment is to make sure that Oak Park Ordinance is consistent with state law. The state of Michigan recently made some changes to the statute which provide that in the case of a dangerous animal or a dangerous dog, that the animal has to be adjudicated as dangerous by a court of law before it can be removed from an owner. The law in Michigan sees animals such as dogs as property, so the owners are entitled to due process before their removal. Oak Park ordinance previously provided that the animal control officer had the discretion to determine whether an animal may be removed from its owner. We've amended that to essentially mirror the statutory requirements that it go before a judge for a determination that the animal is dangerous before further action may be taken.
Right, and there were several possible actions, I think, mentioned in the article. Do you recall?
That's correct, Your Honor, or I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. Essentially, the judge has the ultimate discretion to determine what can be done with the dog based upon what the findings are at a show cause hearing. So if the animal is found to be dangerous, the judge can order its removal from the owner and placed with animal control. Other options that are afforded the court include requiring the owner to maintain liability insurance to protect the public, requiring the owner to maintain high fencing to ensure that the dog stays within its yard. But ultimately, the statute does not restrict to the judge to any particular remedies. The court has the authority to determine what remedy is in the best interests of public safety, depending upon the individual circumstances.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions about this one?
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Weiss.
Do we also revise some language in this one about what the city does with animals that it's taken into possession if they're deemed dangerous or otherwise?
If the court determines that an animal is dangerous and orders or allows the city to dispose of an animal, the city would have the authority to do so. But again, it depends upon the discretion of the court and what the court's findings are on each case.
Okay, thank you. And that language was a little different than what was in there before, right? Because I don't think their court order was in there prior to this revision.
That's correct. I believe the prior ordinance or the current ordinance that exists in Oak Park was last amended in the mid-1970s, and it contained some ambiguity and was not consistent with what the state law requirements were on that subject.
Thank you.
This is a rather narrow one about dangerous dogs. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Weiss
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
and Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carried unanimously, this one. The next one, let's see. D, correct? First reading of an ordinance to amend section 1449. Fees, chapter 14, article 2, division 2, license of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park. I would like motion to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Radner, second? Is there a
Second.
second? Burns, thank you. Attorney Kraus, would you summarize this one for us, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This particular section of the ordinance is being amended to specifically provide exemptions to the licensing fees required for dog licenses. And just to clarify, this is not an exemption to the licensing requirement itself. The state of Michigan requires all licenses for dogs 6 months of age and older. We are only providing an exemption for the fees associated with the license. These exemptions would apply to foster dogs up to 180 days, as well as dogs that are used by handicapped individuals as defined by state statute, and dogs that are used by law enforcement.
Okay, are there questions or discussion about this one?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Weiss.
does this also apply to foster cats?
The way that it was drafted, it was specifically directed at dogs, not cats.
Do we require fees for cats?
I believe the current ordinance does require fees for cats, but the current ordinance, the amendments that were requested were only applicable to dogs. I'm not aware of any handicapped or leader dog or leader cats, so to speak, that would fall under this exemption.
You've never heard of a handicapped leader cat?
No, I have not.
Oh. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but the fostering of cats, I know, is definitely a thing. Is there a way to just add that language?
Are cats licensed? Just a question.
Yes, they are under our ordinance. They are licensed, and the limitations on the keeping of animals per household does apply to cats as well as dogs.
Would that be easy enough to do? Because I think it's just that one section, correct? It's just section
1449.
1449, Part A, Part 4. Can we just
Yes.
add any foster dog or cat?
Yes, we could do that, subject to a vote of council to allow that amendment.
Okay, would you like to vote on that amendment?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Julie Edgar. City Clerk Ed Norris, would you take a vote on adding, eliminating the fee for fostering cats? So they would need a license, but would not have to pay the fee because the foster family is already doing a good deed by doing that. So this is a vote on the amendment, adding cats.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes?
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
A motion carried. So that adds cats, if they're being fostered, you don't have to pay the license. So now we're voting on the ordinance as amended that if you're fostering cats, you don't have to pay the fee either. If there's no discussion, City Clerk Ed Norris?
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Was that dog barking on cue?
Perfect timing.
No licenses.
It
So
was
this
actually a cat. It was a leader cat.
impersonating a dog, yeah.
Sorry about that.
First reading of an ordinance to amend section 1454, kennel licenses, adding section 1455, violations, chapter 14, article 2, division 2, license of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park. I'd like a motion approving the first reading, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Burns, a second?
Second.
Second. Radner? And then Attorney Kraus, will you explain this one?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Section 1454 is amended to eliminate some ambiguity in the existing ordinance in order to make the ordinance consistent with state law. State law requires residents to limit their ownership of dogs to 3 per household. The existing Oak Park ordinance is somewhat ambiguous as to whether this would be allowable in a combination of 3 dogs or 3 cats. We've taken that away and provided that a resident may choose to have 3 dogs and or 3 cats or any combination thereof, as long as the number of animals does not exceed 3. 1454 is being added in order to also resolve some ambiguity in the ordinance and provide for violations of this particular chapter. We've incorporated some reference to state law for the reason that the dangerous animals section that we previously discussed, any violation of that section would be a misdemeanor as required by state law. Any other violation of this particular chapter would be considered a civil infraction.
So then just clarifying, if I have 3 dogs of my own, I cannot foster a dog.
That's correct.
Okay.
So foster dogs would count against the number of, or the maximum 3 dogs you're allowed to maintain per household. Michigan law requires you to obtain a kennel license if you wish to have more than 3 dogs in your household. So we're not able to exceed that limit by ordinance.
To clarify that though, that does not apply to animals under the age of 6 months.
That's correct.
So if your dog has puppies, they wouldn't count against you. And you wouldn't need to have a license for those animals until they reach the age of 6 months.
That's correct.
And also just to clarify that too, if it wasn't already clear, we're doing this to get in line with state law. So the state, according to the state of Michigan, you cannot have more than 3 animals without obtaining a kennel license. So we're just making sure our ordinance is aligned with state law.
That is correct. 3 animals per household.
Thank you.
Anything further? We ready to vote? City Clerk Ed Norris?
Madam Mayor, I'm so sorry. I was trying to unmute myself. I have one more question. Because I know our current ordinance is not aligned with state law, but do we know of any instances where we have any residents who have currently have licenses for more than 3 animals?
I would have to defer to Director Barrett on that particular issue.
We are not aware of any residents that have more than 3 dogs at their residence,
Or a combination of dogs and cats?
or a combination of. Typically, we only find out when we're investigating some type of nuisance or a problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then Attorney Kraus, I had some questions about some things that were obviously on one of these ordinances. One of them mentions the dog relieving himself on somebody else's lawn. The other one is a nuisance. If there's a sanitation nuisance, if the person is not cleaning up their backyard from their dog, that is also mentioned. Dogs running at large are mentioned. I thought it was during the dangerous animal one, but 180 days for the foster dog. That an animal making a lot of noise, it's a noise nuisance and is not allowed. And I think there was something about the shelter has to protect the animal from the elements. It has to be the right size for the dog with clean bedding, and that a garage or a shed is not considered adequate. All those things are in one of those ordinances, correct?
Combination of ordinances, Madam Mayor. The sheltering and tethering of dogs is incorporated into section 14-2 that we previously discussed. The nuisance violations that you referenced concerning animal waste and running at large, those particular issues were already addressed in our existing ordinance. What we've done is simply amended the ordinance to resolve some ambiguity and also specify that those particular issues would be a civil infraction.
I have a question.
Okay.
Where did this limitation of 3 come from? Has that always been here, or is that something that we're enacting now?
That particular limitation is per Michigan statute. Michigan law states that in order for a resident to maintain more than 3 dogs in a household, they have to have a kennel license. Kennel licenses are issued by Oakland County or the county where the resident resides.
Is that a new statute?
No, it is not. It's something that has been on the books for probably at least 10 years.
All right, because I know a lot of people with a lot of dogs, not necessarily in Oak Park, but people in areas where there's more land, and a lot of people have a lot of dogs. I guess they all have to have kennel licenses.
Potentially, yes, and as Councilmember Weiss mentioned, the limitation on the 3 dogs only applies to dogs older than 6 months of age. So a resident would be allowed to maintain puppies until they reach the age of 6 months.
A couple quick things, because I see some comments in the chat. A question about if it applies to renters. Yes, it would apply to any resident, including renters within the city. Obviously, your rental agreement may prevent you from having animals per your landlord, but you wouldn't be able to have more than that if you're in Oak Park or anywhere in Michigan without a kennel license. And then also concern that there are residents with 6 dogs currently. Even under our current ordinance as written, it still does not allow for more than 3 dogs. And we're amending it to only allow for 3 animals to be in compliance with state law. So I would just say if anyone has concerns about if there's a nuisance, or you can always call, who would be the best person? Is it code enforcement would be the best number to call?
Mm-hmm. Technical planning, animal control.
Okay, so you can always call and report it if you have issues or concerns.
Madam Mayor, I have a question about cats.
Councilmember Edgar.
So section 1426, 4, provision 4, and it talks about keeping a cat on a leash or keeping a cat under reasonable control. So I've seen it once in my life, somebody walking a cat on a leash. But it does not have any provisions for any fine or punishment if the cat is free, which of course happens all the time because cats want to be outside. So these 6 and 7 seem contradictory to me, that we're asking people to keep their cat on a suitable leash or harness while off premises. And then the next one really just applies to dogs that are off leash. So how can we square these two? Can we just, if it were up to me, we would remove the provision, the requirement to have a cat on a leash or harness, because it just doesn't work. And cats, as we know, kind of rove around. Many of them do. So how can we be doing both, requiring the leash and then not requiring the, only requiring owners of dogs to keep their dogs leashed?
I think, is it that dogs can be dangerous? Cats are rarely dangerous.
That is the generally accepted thought, Madam Mayor, is that there is more of a risk to public safety with dogs being loose than cats. However, I would leave it to the council's discretion as to whether or not they want to make any changes based on Councilmember Edgar's concerns.
I mean, I would just say, let's not require cats to be on a leash or harness. The language seems a little antiquated to me. And I don't mind loose cats. I mean, I think some people think they're good for, keeping their properties clear of mice, and they probably are. But yeah, it just seems sort of, that provision seems sort of, again, antiquated.
I know that there is a problem sometimes with loose feral cats in the neighborhood. And there are people trying to catch the cats and sterilize them and put them back in the neighborhood. Otherwise, new cats move in and take over the territory. I know I've heard in certain areas that loose feral cats are an issue, but I don't think it's covered by, they're certainly not going to be on a leash if they're not anybody's pet. Director Barrett, I saw you shaking your head. Can you speak a little bit about it?
Good evening, Mayor. I was just agreeing with your comments that, yeah, we do get a lot of complaints about feral cats, and you do and probably should keep your cats under control because they do not stay in the boundary of your own yard, and they do become nuisance, and other residents do not appreciate it.
So then should we require cat owners to keep their cats sheltered?
Madam Mayor,
Council member?
I kind of agree with Councilmember Edgar on this. I don't see the city being able to enforce keeping cats indoors or on leashes. I just don't know how we would even go about doing that. So many residents have indoor-outdoor cats. There are feral cats that don't belong to anybody that are just out and about. There are some people, as we just mentioned, who will trap, spay, and neuter, and then release feral cats. I don't know that we can require, I don't know how we would begin to enforce, if we even decided that that was a good idea, I don't even know how we would be able to enforce that.
Have we voted on E?
No.
No, okay. Okay. Where would council like to go with this one?
Can you specify, Councilmember Edgar, what is the line that you were reading with the having the cat on a leash? What line was that?
This is under section 1426 definitions, and it's number 4. I'm sorry, number 6. So it says reasonable control means keeping a dog on a suitable leash and keeping a cat on a suitable leash or harness while off the premises of the owner or custodian, unless the dog or cat is confined in a closed vehicle or shipping receptacle. So, I mean, to me, it sort of feels like either we do or we don't. I mean, requiring residents to keep their cats in the house, I think, personally, having had cats, I don't know that it's so possible. I think if a cat wants out, that cat is going to, become a nuisance to the owner unless the owner lets the cat out. And again, I don't see how you can leash a cat anyway. So if it were up to me, and I don't know, and again, echoing Councilmember Weiss's concerns, I don't see how the city can even enforce this. if it catches a cat, will the city go to the owner and say, we're ticketing you because your cat was out? Just the nature of the animal, the nature of that beast is that they really don't want to be confined. It's difficult to confine a cat.
There are indoor cats who are declawed and are kept indoors. I mean, it's
Right. Yeah, of course.
Barrett, what is your
To claw cats, just putting that out there. It's very bad for cats.
I agree.
I'd like to add a little.
1 minute? Director Barrett, do you have something to add?
I'd just like to point out that this is an existing ordinance that we use when we're responding to neighbors' cats that are being a nuisance to their neighbors. And as I stated, it's an existing ordinance and not part of these changes. So, and I think Eric can state further, it's up to council to decide what they want or what they don't want, but this will be taking some of our ability to tell an owner to keep his cat in his own yard away.
So this is not a revision. This is as it's written currently, and it's a way that the city currently uses if there is a concern or a complaint about
Correct.
a specific cat.
I don't believe that we should have that portion removed, saying that you shouldn't have to keep your cat on a leash, but cat owners should be responsible for their cat. I know that a cat is not like a dog, but it's still an animal. You are still responsible for it, and you are still responsible for its control. Yes, there are some cats who will just sit in the yard, who will sit in the window, but then if you know that your cat is not one of those cats, then you need to take action. You need to take action and be held responsible for it. So I don't think we should change the ordinance to say cats should
I
not.
agree with Mayor Pro Tem Burns. I'd just as soon not change that, but if you'd like to propose an amendment and vote on
No,
it.
I'm not saying it should be changed. I said it should be.
No.
Okay.
I agree with that. Hearing Director Barrett, I think if we're just using this as a way, if there's an issue, to be able to enforce the issue, to do something about the issue when there are complaints, I'm fine with that. We're not like going around looking for cats, loose cats, and ticketing people for fun. This is just like when people are complaining about it, then there's a way to actually enforce it.
City Clerk Norris, I think we're ready to vote.
You bet. Councilmember Radner. Hello? Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes.
I got it. Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar
Yes.
and Mayor McClellan.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. This was, I think it was an area of concern for a lot of people, and I think this has resolved things that we've talked about for a number of years. And I appreciate staff and legal counsel for all they've done. And now we are turning this over. If City Attorney Kraus has nothing to add, to City Manager Tungate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I have a brief update regarding our MOGO partnership. I've been told that I cannot share these numbers in writing, but I wanted to share some of these numbers verbally with you because I think they're pretty impressive. So the numbers that I have recently received go back to I think it was about 3 weeks, according to Crystal, in the month of June, which is when we really began the MOGO bike partnership. And of the 5 communities that are participating in the partnership, and that includes Royal Oak, Ferndale, Huntington Woods, Berkeley, and a portion of the city of Detroit that wasn't already included, which the part that was included was the Midtown and downtown areas. This was the Northwest Detroit corridor. The 2 stations out of all those communities, and of our 5 stations, but the 2 stations that were the top ridership stations were both in Oak Park. And those stations were at Oak Park Boulevard and Park Lawn. And number 2 was our station at 9 Mile and Manistee. And I thought those were some amazing figures to see that of all those places, and these include some stations, you know, in Ferndale on Woodward and Royal Oak on Woodward, and some other locations that did not finish as high as our 2 stations. As it turns out, we also, of the 5 stations that we have, one of our stations is also dead last, and that's our station at Coolidge and Lincoln. So for the people who are in that area, please make sure that you're taking advantage of the consortium and riding the MOGO bikes in that station. I would hope to bring more updates to you guys as we get them. I will also just say that of all the trips that MOGO tracks, the expansion, so the 5 communities and then Northwest Detroit make up about 11% of the overall ridership as of June. So 90% of the ridership is taking place in the Midtown and downtown vicinity, at least it was. And that's all I had for that. I also would like to move on now to 14B, and that is
City Manager Tungate, just before you leave that topic.
Yes, ma'am.
Curious who is riding and why. I have a bike, and I was thinking about going on the Tuesday ride, or taking the bike into Royal Oak for lunch or something, and worried about somebody taking the bike or having to take the bike in and getting the tires done. And so I was thinking about taking a MOGO. Mm-hmm. There was a tent at our farmer's market, a MOGO tent there. And I said, I'm concerned. I thought I might, join by the month for $20 a month, unlimited riding. But what if my ride goes longer than an hour? Oh, he said, no problem. Just find a station, put the bike in for a moment, and then sign it out again. You just have to check in every hour, and you're not limited to an hour. So I thought that made it pretty handy for me to go on a Tuesday night ride then.
Well, and keep in mind, Madam Mayor, something you said that's very key is MOGO at its very core is intended to serve as a really utilitarian bike system. I mean, it's meant to serve as a commuter bike system, or for people who are running errands or going to the grocery store or whatever else. So it's really not at its core intended to be a pleasure riding, entity. I'm sure some are doing that, but anyway, in any event, I'm very excited about the fact that 2 of our 5 stations are on the top, rank at the top. So very cool.
Madam Mayor, City Manager, if I could add to that too really quick. I'm not surprised at all by that, because I constantly see people using the MOGO bikes, particularly on by the Lanier Park on 9 Mile. And they're great for public transit too. That first and last mile, if you have to get to a bus stop or get back home, it's a very good way to do that.
And I'll say it again, but it's just surprising that station is outpacing the station in Ferndale at 9 Mile and Woodward, just down the street, but at Woodward Avenue. Go figure. So I think that says a lot. So great job. Crystal Van Vleck and Director Kim Maroney have been instrumental in bringing that here. So great job, you guys.
Maybe communications could reach out and ask people, why are they riding a MOGO, and interview them and find out how they're using them. Might be interesting.
I don't know if we want to ask Crystal. I don't know what, how much more detail we're going to be getting as the days go on. Do you happen to know?
Yeah, that meeting that we had when they gave us those numbers was just in the beginning of July. So I was hoping to see something from them for another meeting soon for updated numbers. And we haven't had anything yet, but we're expecting a meeting in the next few months at least to give another update. And we have been working with them in the meantime. You've probably seen them at the farmers market, and they've been working with our communications team. They're really in the middle of trying to help people understand what you want to use MOGO for and where it'll fit into your life at. And so we have been in communication with them, but we haven't had a report since the June report.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to 14B. 14B is a request to approve a retirement and consulting agreement with Vicki Brooks. Council members, as I'll be detailing here later this evening on 14G, We have hired a new human resources director to replace our esteemed colleague, Vicki Brooks. As it turns out, I was not able to craft an overlap because of the fact that our new HR director had to give an extended notice to her current employer. Having said that, I'd also like to ask your permission to extend an agreement to Vicki Brooks for what basically equates to her current pay for 3 months, so that we can make this transition of our human resources department as effective as possible. In addition to the transition, I would also like to ask your permission to have Vicki Brooks do some other things, such as, walk us through some of the changes with the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, and to do a wage and classification study that we'll be using in our bargaining coming up. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Can you just explain Families First and what are we studying?
How much time do we have? I'm just kidding.
Ah,
Well, just wading through all of the COVID-19 stuff is a tremendous undertaking. I've commented just recently, this is probably taking up for Vicki and the person in the Human Resources Department. You'll be meeting in a little bit here. Dealing with COVID-19 and how we handle that with regards to our employees and our retirees and everyone else has become basically a full-time job. And there are plenty of policies. Let me give you one example. We have plenty of policies that we'll need to really hash out in more detail as the days go on. And one example I can give you is that we have quite a few employees who their school-age children will not be going into the classroom for a month or two or more at the beginning of the school year. So obviously we have to figure out a way to keep these employees active, but still allow them the latitude to obviously homeschool their children for a month or two or more, which is going to be tremendously challenging. And the list goes on and on and on.
Didn't you mention that you were considering flex hours?
Yes. Yeah, flex time will be definitely considered, but I think what we're talking about is essentially going back into kind of a lockdown operating model where, the only difference will be that we have the public coming in and out of our building now. And how do we best handle that so that our customer service doesn't suffer as a result? But I struggle, and we're getting a little bit in the weeds here, but I struggle with penalizing employees who have school-age children solely because that school is not allowing those children to go into the classroom. I don't want to be that kind of an employer, but the bottom line is we need to have a very well-developed policy in place. And again, that's just one example of the things that she's going to be working on, in addition to her main priority, which will be helping Megan Burke, our new HR director, transition into this very, very important role for the city.
So are we ready for a motion then to approve a retirement and consulting agreement with Vicki Brooks?
I just have one question.
Can we get the motion first and then the question?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Julie Edgar. Councilmember Edgar, your question.
So my question was, so Vicki will stay on then. She'll work no less than 30 hours a week for the 3 months to help the new HR director transition. Is that correct?
Yes, that'll be part of it. But again, there'll be special projects as well.
So the pay then, does that represent Vicki's normal pay, the $7,600 per month?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll just continue paying her and she will be working.
Yes. The only difference is she won't be getting her fringes. She'll be getting her fringes out of her, she's in the pension system.
Right.
So she'll be getting her fringes out of that system as opposed to coming out of the operating budget of the city.
Okay. Got it.
It's a temporary thing, obviously. We're talking 3 months here.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes?
and Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you, council members. And I'm going to be introducing Megan Burke here in just a moment. Before I do that, 14C, Mr. City Clerk, do you want to take this one?
I will. I'll be glad to. Council members, one of the things that we're required to do as a council is to schedule our meeting dates for the upcoming year. And we typically do it early like this because we have to put our calendar together and we want the calendar to be right. So I have a resolution which requires us to take a look at having two meetings a month is our requirement. We also typically do it the first and third Mondays of the month unless we fall on a holiday. And I have indeed looked at national holidays, and we may need to postpone this because I did not refer to any Jewish holidays. So, and I haven't had time to really look. I was looking at it now, and it looks to me like we would have several dates that might have a problem. I may need time to bring this back at another date. It looks like in May, we would have a meeting scheduled on Shabbat, is that right? Yeah, and then in September, Sukkot is going to be on the 20th. So those are the two I see right now. So I guess I would recommend that we bring this to another meeting.
Okay. Do we need a vote for that or just do it?
No, I think we can just not do it.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thanks for considering that.
Okay, and then 14D, Mr. City Clerk, I know we wanted to talk about this date given the coinciding with the general election.
Yeah, that's true. We would like to consider moving our November meeting because it falls the day before the presidential election. And we'd like to request that we do that. There's a couple of options for that that I would suggest. We could move it back a week on the 10th. And I did look at these for any Jewish holidays. I don't think we have any in November, so I think we're clear there. But moving it back a week would a recommendation would be to move it to Tuesday the 10th. So the 2nd would move to the 10th.
Excuse me, but that's because Monday, the 9th is taken with the Planning Commission meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct. That would lend it ourselves to having a meeting 2 weeks in a row if we keep the 16th. Another option would be to actually move 2 meetings and move the 16th meeting to the 23rd, which would be a great option because November allows for a 3-week period, at the end of the month there. So everything would be spaced out very, very. Yet a third option would be to move the Monday the 2nd meeting all the way to the 30th. So those were some options that we thought we'd talk about, but it would be great if we could move the council meeting from the 2nd.
So, Mr. City Clerk, if I could, Madam Mayor, the charter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the charter states that the city council shall have at least 2 meetings per month, but it does not say when those meetings need to take place, just that there needs to be at least 2 per month.
Correct. Our council rules that we've adopted suggest the first and third Mondays of the month, unless it falls on a holiday. So council has can do what they want.
I would just like to add that the 23rd is the week of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how good that would be for anyone. I know it would not be good for me, but if that's what the group decided, I would, go ahead and accept it. But
That
overall,
would be Monday. That's a Monday, the 23rd, correct?
I know, yes. But it's also the week of Thanksgiving. A lot of people are on vacation or out of town, doing things in preparation for the holiday that Thursday. Actually, yeah, that Thursday. So I just don't think that would be a good week, the week of Thanksgiving. But as I stated, if the group voted for it, of course, I would go ahead and adhere to it. But I would hope we would do something different than the 23rd.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Mhm.
I know it makes sense to have it be on a Monday night to be kind of consistent with when we have it, but is it possible to just move it later in that week? Like do it on Wednesday or Thursday?
How would you mean that would Thursday's Thanksgiving?
No. I mean, the week of the election. So the 4th or the 5th.
City Clerk Ed Norris, how's your?
I mean, that's doable. It'd be preferable to avoid the week, but certainly later in the week would be great.
Is that just because you're going to be like dealing with post-election? It's going to be crazy. Maybe not enough time to prep.
Mr. City Clerk, I can answer that for you if you'd like. I think this election is going to be something like we've never seen before, maybe. So
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to do is take as much off our plate during that time as we can.
I wouldn't be opposed to having back-to-back meetings.
The 10th and the 16th, is that right?
That's probably the best, and that would be okay. We just put two agendas together and.
I'm fine with that.
I mean, the 2nd and the 16th. Oh, yeah.
The 10th and the 16th would be kind of close together, but it would meet everyone's objections. City Manager Tungate, would that be all right with you?
That works perfectly for me. It just means we have a planning commission meeting the night before, but that's fine.
So the motion then would be just to move the Monday the 2nd to Tuesday the 10th.
The Tuesday the 10th. Okay.
So moved.
Great.
Second.
Okay, great. White and Burns, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Last time it was aye. I don't know. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
14E, I know I saw him. There he is, Director Cooper. Take it away, sir.
All right, thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Before you, I have an agreement of participation with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office Special Weapons and Tactics Team, also known as the SWAT Team. The Department of Public Safety is requesting to have Officer Donald Hoffman participate with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office as a member of their Special Weapons and Tactics Team. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office select team of specially trained officers respond to emergency and critical incidents, including but not limited to barricaded gunmen, high-risk warrant arrests, drug raids, and civil disorder. The Oakland County SWAT team supports the entire county of Oakland. On more than a few occasions throughout the years, the Oak Park Department of Public Safety has relied upon the county SWAT team for assistance with barricaded gunmen, suicidal subjects, high-risk warrant arrests, and within the past year, a subject wanted for a homicide in the city of Oak Park, where the subject had taken up refuge in a vacant home. The services provided by the county SWAT team are invaluable and benefit this department greatly. Prior to 2008, the Oak Park Department of Public Safety supported our own special response team, of which I participated as a member for 10 years. Due to budgetary restraints, we were forced to disband. Having had an opportunity to add a member to the county SWAT team would serve as a huge advantage to the department. Currently, several other departments have members who participate on the county team. Huntington Woods, Beverly Hills, Berkeley, Ferndale, and Royal Oak, to name a few. The participating agencies will be responsible for an annual fee of $2,500 the participating agency may withdraw their officer from the team without a reason at any time with a 30-day written notice. The officer is required to maintain a high tactical aptitude, superior physical conditioning, along with attending scheduled training. Officer Hoffman would remain a fully sworn Oak Park Public Safety Officer and will continue to perform his duties as he normally would as a member of this department. In the event of an incident or a call out, Officer Hoffman shall notify the on-duty commander. And if Officer Hoffman is on duty, the department reserves the right to withhold permission for participation based on the immediate needs of the department. Prior to bringing this item forward for City Council's approval, I've spoken with the city manager at length about this matter. Funding has been allocated in the public safety training budget to cover the cost of this expense. The interlocal agreement is attached and a copy was forwarded to the city attorney for review. So I'm coming before City Council this evening with a recommendation that City Council approve the request to allow Officer Donald Hoffman to participate as a member of the Oakland County Sheriff's SWAT team.
There's someone who will make that motion, please.
So moved.
Ms. Burns, thank you. And second?
Second.
Royce, thank you. Director Cooper, I'm just curious on what basis was Donald Hoffman selected? Is it a volunteer thing or qualifications, or I wonder if you'd speak to that for a moment.
Sure. Actually, Donald Hoffman is one of, he's not a new officer. He's been here for, I want to say probably about 5 years. He is one of my, I would say, top tier officers. He actually researched the information as far as the Oakland County Sheriff's Department having the SWAT team, which they had reached out to other agencies. He had shown extensive interest from a very young time in his career when he joined the Public Safety Department. And then based on his work performance, his performance evaluations, the initiative that he took as far as researching this, I think he would be a great fit. There was also a qualification that, an extensive and intense qualification that he had to go through, which he came through with flying colors. And like I said, he's definitely a top choice for the position.
Was there anyone else who showed interest?
Yes, we actually had 2 officers who, my intent was to bring 2 officers onto the Oakland County SWAT team. We had 2 that tried out. Unfortunately, there are a number of other candidates that tried out as well, so we were not able to get 2 on the team at this particular time. Maybe next year we'll revisit that, and at that point, depending on how many additional candidates that we may have, and hopefully the runner-up for the position that didn't make it this time, he would be an excellent candidate for the next time. But yeah, there was definitely interest in the positions.
Director Cooper,
Yes.
are there other cities that have special response teams, or is there just one address, Oakland County Sheriff's Department, that has a SWAT team?
Yeah, they're becoming more and more scarce. Southfield supports their own special response team. The city of Troy has a special response team. But like I said, as the years have gone on, budgets due to, cuts in state revenue sharing and other expenses have made the smaller or medium-sized departments very, I guess, cost restricted as far as being able to support your own special response team. I was a huge advocate for maintaining Oak Park's SWAT team. We had to disband in 2008, and the benefits that you receive not only from just being a member on the team, but actually coming back and sort of doing the train-the-trainer and bringing a lot of valuable insight, tactics, and knowledge that you have as a member on the team, and sharing that with the department is invaluable. And that was one of the huge benefits that our team, we were able to do, like I said, back in, I believe our team started in 1989 and unfortunately disbanded in 2008. Right now, Oakland County is pretty much has the market cornered, but even they realized with budgetary constraints that they've also reached out to other, municipalities to see if there's interest as far as bringing members on to help, offset some of the burden as it relates to, to this activity. So, yeah, and we've worked with, when I was on the SWAT team, we would back up Oakland County's team and Troy's team. And like I said, had a really good relationship with those agencies. And I can't say enough good things about the Oakland County Sheriff's Department.
So having somebody from your department trained with this team will be a benefit to our city.
It will definitely be a benefit to our city. Number one, like I said, when we have, and hopefully we won't have any, very many situations where we need to have one of our, the Oakland County SWAT team respond, but having someone on the team not only benefits the city of Oak Park, it benefits the officers, like I said, because this officer will be able to come back and share knowledge as far as tactics and other educational pieces that he'll be able to, break up and bring back into training sessions for various members throughout the department. It's kind of also pulling your own weight. It's one of those situations where you don't want to always have to pull on resources and not, you're not willing to, I guess, pay your fair share or, augment or assist with supplying the Oakland County Sheriffs with assistance as it relates to that matter. So that helps as well.
I think for cost cutting, we're always encouraged to team up with other cities and chip in to do things together. I think that's Michigan Municipal League is pointing to that as a good method. If further questions, are you ready to vote?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I
Councilman.
had a quick question. If we had a situation, God forbid, if there was like a school shooting situation in our community, is the Oakland County SWAT team, would they respond? Is that like something that they would respond to? That's sort of what you're talking about?
No, when you're talking about an active shooter situation, those days of, sitting around and surrounding a location and waiting for the SWAT team, that day is over. If you get a situation where you have an active shooter, you're going to have our men and women who are here make an entry. And there used to be a situation, a few years ago where it was, you would wait until 2 or 3 officers would arrive on a scene, and then you would actually form a small team and go in and attack the threat and try and neutralize it and eliminate it. The thought process has changed on that as well. Now you have the first officer on the scene is actually making entry into a location, trying to eliminate the threat and save lives. When you start talking about those active shooter type situations, you definitely don't have time to wait for a SWAT team. You're talking about, like you said, if you have, like I said, mentioned before, if you got a suicidal subject, a barricaded gunman where you've tried to negotiate this person out of a location, a high risk warrant entries where somebody's maybe wanted for a very dangerous felony, homicide, robbery, arms, things of that nature, where time is on your side. You can actually, get a perimeter set up and then call in a specialized unit with the training and the equipment to come in and actually handle those situations. Those will be more of the type of incidents that you would be engaging or depending on a special response team for.
Thank you.
Anything further? Let's see. We need to roll. Let's roll call this. I think there's some cost.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Radner. Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Motion carried then.
Okay, 14F, I am going to turn it over to Deputy Director Dave DeCoster to go over for us.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City Manager Tungate. Before you tonight, the Department of Public Works is requesting authorization to purchase the following vehicles from the state of Michigan and Macomb County pre-bid contracts. The first is a John Deere wheel loader. The second is a Bandit 250 XP brush chipper. And the third is a 2021 Ford Explorer. It's important to note that the pricing for the public safety vehicle, the Ford Explorer, has come in slightly over budget. However, there is funding available in the public safety conference and workshops budget to make up the difference. Funding overall is available in the major streets, local streets, water, sewer, general fund, and motor pool funds. It's recommended the City Council authorize the Public Works Department to participate in the State of Michigan My Deal and Macomb County pre-bid contracts for the purchase of these vehicles totaling $271,341.28.
First, before we get too far in the weeds, we need a motion to authorize the purchase.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Burns and Weiss, thank you. Questions or discussion about the vehicles?
Yes, I have a question and discussion. If I'm not mistaken, we approved the purchase of these vehicles in the previous years when we were preparing the budgets for 2020. Is that correct?
These vehicles are all budgeted in the 2020-2021 budget, correct?
Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Mhm.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes?
Councilmember Radner. Lost him. Councilmember Weiss.
Yeah.
And Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried, 4 votes.
Okay, thank you, council members. And then last but not least, 14G, I have the honor of introducing our new Human Resources Director, Megan Burke. And before I turn it over to Megan, who has been patiently waiting on our call here this evening, I do want to say, and I don't know that she knows this or not, but we received over 65 applicants for the Human Resources Director position. We put together a team of interviewers to go through what turned out to be a 3+ stage interview process. And of all those people, all those qualified professionals, Megan won out. So I'm very proud to introduce Megan Burke to you. And she is coming to us from Chesterfield Township. So Megan, do you want to say a few words? And council members, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah.
Before our new Human Resources Director speaks, I was just curious, was our current Human Resources Director involved in the interviewing process and the selection process?
She was, and the other members of the team were Director Steve Cooper, the Human Resources Director from the City of Madison Heights was our guest on our team, the Assistant City Manager, and myself.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for having me, not only at the meeting, but I will be coming to you live tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I wish I could meet you all in person tonight, but I do look forward to meeting each and every one of you as the time passes. I am very excited to be a part of the community. Everybody just seems, very much like a team. My husband and I have vowed to spend more time in the city of Oak Park. We've talked about each weekend coming and doing a little thing because Chesterfield's a little bit of a hike. So we have vowed that we are going to do that. I'm really, really excited to be a new team member with you guys, to learn from you all, to get to know each and every one of you. And I do have to say, just as somebody coming in who pays attention to things like succession planning, I greatly appreciate, the support of the city council for keeping Vicky on board. Those are the types of things that in local government we definitely need to be focused on. So just your commitment to succession planning already, I'm just very excited to be a part of the team. So thank you so much for having me, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Welcome to Oak Park. Are there any questions for our new HR director?
And Megan, where were you previously?
So I am coming from Chesterfield Township, where I also do live. I've been there for 4 years. I've had almost 8 years in human resources. Prior to that, I was in the private sector, but I have been doing the local government aspect for 4 years now. I absolutely love it. I've made some great colleagues, network connections, and it really is kind of like a small family. So I'm actually really excited to get to know Oakland County as well. Coming from Macomb County, it's very exciting kind of stepping into a new area.
Welcome.
Very excited to have you, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, members of council, unless there are other questions, that completes the city manager report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wonder if we're at a call to the audience, would our host please handle that?
Good evening, everyone. At this time, we will open up the meeting for public comment. If anybody, any members of the public are present and wish to speak, please notify by raising your hand on your Zoom menu. You can find that option by clicking the 3 dots by your name. If that doesn't work or doesn't come up for you, if you just mention in the chat that you wish to speak, you will be unmuted in the order that we receive your message. Kenneth Sherman, if you are unmuted.
I have 2 questions this evening. The first one is probably to the Deputy DPW individual. Over the past month, we've had a few water main breaks on Oak Park Boulevard between Morton and Scotia, and I wondered why that is and what the city is proactively doing to address that. And then after that, I have another question to a different individual. Thank you.
Would you like me to answer?
Yes.
All right, so obviously you've noticed we've had a couple breaks and that you're going to be seeing another one. We actually have another leak out there that we've detected today. We're scheduled to replace that small portion of main later this week. Proactively, we are actually replacing that entire main this year, this fiscal year. It's looking like a spring project, but we are in the design phases and we will be replacing the stretch of main on Oak Park Boulevard between Coolidge and Scotia, most likely in the springtime. So it's on our radar. We're well aware of the age, the condition, the pipe, and we're going to make our way through the winter here and get it fixed for you.
Okay, thank you. And my other comment is to Director Cooper. I wanted to publicly thank him and give him kudos for addressing my concerns about speeding on Jerome and getting a speed sign out there this past week, even when he was out of the office. So I wanted to publicly thank him for taking care of that.
You're always welcome, Mr. Sherman, anytime.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Deb Maltz, you are unmuted.
Hi, good evening, Mayor McClellan and City Council. I just wanted to give a little bit more information in regards to the eviction diversion program with Community Housing Network. It's a little bit more than just a one-page application. There's also supporting documents that both the tenant and the landlord have to provide in addition to the application that each have to fill out. For more information, people can go to communityhousingnetwork.org and scroll down just a little bit. And where they see eviction diversion program on the left, they can click for more information, or they can call the Housing Resource Center at 248-269-1335. There is some information that the tenant needs to give to a Housing Resource Center representative so they can be screened in the system, as well as, getting them the application that they have to fill out and answering any questions that they have. So you would talk to somebody like myself because I do work there in the HRC. So we can answer a lot of questions that people have about the eviction diversion program. And then as Judge Apple said, people do also want to call Lakeshore Legal Aid because They can answer any and all legal questions that anyone has. They can also provide representation at a court Zoom meeting or anything like that. And that is completely free to the tenant to take advantage of because of the grants that they've been provided to provide those services. So I just wanted to give out that more information so people had a little bit better understanding of, you know, what's going on with this, because we are here to help people, and that's what we want to do so they don't get evicted and put out on the street.
Ms. Moss, would you take that phone number?
248-269-1335.
And that's the number for Community Housing Network?
Yes, that's to the Housing Resource Center. And when you call, you just leave your name and phone number and let us know that you're calling in regards to the eviction diversion program, and we'll call you back.
Nice.
If anybody else would wish to speak, now is the time to raise your hand or message in the chat. At this time, I don't see anyone else.
Thank you very much. Thank you. If we're done with call to the audience, it is now call to the council. Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please be healthy. Continue to practice safe PPE measures. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Councilmember Edgar.
Thank you to our attorneys who did such good work on the animal ordinances. And thank you to members of the audience who raised some interesting points tonight. And everybody stay safe, including all you block partiers. Good night.
Thank you. Councilmember Radner, are you still with us? Hearing nothing. Councilmember Weiss.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to extend a personal thank you to all residents and everyone within Oak Park and in the 27th District for supporting me in the primary election to be the next state representative for the 27th House District. And if anyone, obviously I'm still very committed to this seat until I formally resign from it. And so I'm excited to continue to serve the city of Oak Park. If anyone has any questions or concerns regarding any concerns you have about the state government that you want to reach out to, if you have things that you want me to know moving into that position or any other city related issues, you still please feel free to reach out. The city will be, obviously I still have an election to win in November, but assuming that happens, there will be a process that the city will develop for filling that vacancy, because I will have a year, but a little bit less than a year left on my term. So if anyone's interested in that, just stay tuned. There'll be more information. I also want to just remind everyone, if you haven't completed the census yet, oh my God, please do it. It is so important. We are currently, I just checked SEMCOG, we're currently at 77.4% completed. So for anyone who that 23% that has not done it yet, we're going to lose critical representation and critical funding if those folks do not complete the census. So reach out to your neighbors, your friends, your family members, make sure they do it. You can fill it out online by going to my2020census.gov, my as in mine, my2020census.gov. If you want to complete it by phone, you can call 844-330-2020 and complete it that way as well. But please do so. It's very important. Thank you, and everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, that's everybody. That just leaves me, and I have a few things to say. I know we've been here a long time, so appreciate your indulgence. I'd like to congratulate the Democratic nominee for Oakland County Executive, David Coulter, on his win. Our 27th District State Representative Democratic nominee, our own council member Regina Weiss, who led an 8-person field. Pretty impressive. 2 judicial finalists for the 45th District Court are Jamie Powell Horowitz and Brenda Richard. 2 Democratic County Commission candidates, Charlie Cavell and Yolanda Smith Charles, won their primary. Wishing the best of luck to all candidates, and congratulations to everyone who ran for office for having the courage to put yourself out there to try and make a difference and make our lives better. Stay involved. Your city needs you. We will use you somehow. The next general election, of course, is Tuesday, November 3rd, and absentee ballots will go out at the end of September. So you'll have lots of time to research candidates and make decisions. We've all heard that the post office is badly underfunded. It gets backed up. They're not sure if they can get the ballots in on time. So please use the drop box in front of City Hall. It's the safest way to return your application. And for your convenience, we are now installing an additional drive-up drop box at this location. We encourage you to bring your ballots to the drop box when they're completed. As Councilmember Weiss said, we unfortunately will have to be replacing her. So start thinking if you are, or if you're interested, we're going to have a process in place so that all who are interested can apply. We'd love to have you in city government. I would like to thank Mayor Pro Tem Burns again for taking the position on the library board as the city council representative. She was selected specifically because she very much enjoyed serving on the board earlier in her time on city council and loves the library. So we felt she would be the perfect person for that job. The Recreation Board has visited 5 sites that have dog parks to see. We've been talking a lot about animals, and we are doing our animal best here. They're looking for best practices for a future Oak Park dog park. And they're also looking into fundraising plans. One that was mentioned was having those decorative bricks that you can buy and have something inscribed for a loved one or a family member. Friends of the Library hosted the Exotic Zoo on August 8th, and I believe it was filmed for those who can't make the event. If there's a link available, we will let you know in the mayor's message. The Traffic Safety Board has met, that new commission studying speeding on the side streets, which is probably the biggest problem for any city anywhere. The board is made up of our residents, John Klein, who is the chair, Noor Al-Mahamid, Mark Holdsworth, Aaron Tobin, and Council Representative Regina Weiss. And the board met with representatives from the Traffic Impact Association to learn about best practices for analyzing traffic concerns and recommending appropriate responses, including stop or yield signs, traffic calming devices, and other types of traffic enforcement. They are planning to send us out a survey to identify problem areas, so save all your complaints and we will have a place for you to put them down. Lastly, election workers are needed. We need more election workers for this, which is promising to be the hugest election turnout that we've seen. We always call election workers poll workers, but the official title is election inspector. So there's 2 ways if you're willing to help out and do this. It's a long day, but it pays very well. You can apply online, or if you rather, come in person to the clerk's office. Look for election inspector. And thank you for your help. Thanks everybody for your patience tonight. This was a long one, and there being no further business to come before this council, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.